Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pastor Brown from Kalamazoo Gospel Ministries with another segment of Stories of Hope from the heart of our community. I'm pleased to welcome this morning on our set our own Mayor, David Anderson. Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. We've talked a lot over the years, but never on camera before.
Well, it's good to have you here. I'm excited. I'm excited for the time that we're in. We're going through a lot as a community, but I'm excited as I watch your leadership. I know that we talk about these are unprecedented times, and so nobody's got all the answers, but just watching the way that you're trying to pull people together is inspiring to me.
Well, I appreciate that so much, and I accept that humbly. I'm doing the best job I can, and so I appreciate that, and doggone it, I am trying to do that. Yes.
Yeah, I think sometimes people think that those people that we elect to office are supposed to be something like superhumans, and just because they got elected, they're supposed to know everything, and they're regular folks,
Right.
Our mayor has a job.
Yes, I do.
You live in the community, just like the rest of us.
Right.
And I think that's the great thing about our political process. We pull people right out of the community to serve us, and I'm just pleased to say and let community know that you have been one of the your support has been just refreshing. Let me say it that way. For us at Kalamazoo Gospel Ministries, and I know I'm not on all of the calls that we have, but my team is, and they say the same thing, and so we're just pleased to be at the table and to have some input. And so we've been talking about our whole COVID thing and how we're working to help bring the homeless together and all of that. Give me kind of a aerial view of how you see that progressing.
So I'd be happy to talk about it, and I want to back up just a little bit first here. And this is one thing that those of us that do this work, I think, are reminded all the more. And that is that, everyone's lives are disrupted now, are in turmoil. Traumatic things are happening. But we sometimes forget that there are many people, several hundred people on any given night in Kalamazoo who literally have already or are experiencing that. Yeah. So people that have had a pandemic in their own lives is how I think about that.
Okay.
And so when we're dealing with people and we might think, well, why are they making that decision? Well, why did that happen? You have to keep in mind, these are folks who have had their lives totally disrupted and upended. And here they are having to take advantage of, the systems that are here in Kalamazoo, whether it's faith-based, nonprofit-based, even public. And so that's one thing as a reminder for us.
Right. That's an excellent perspective, because all of a sudden we are all in a situation that we don't know how to respond to,
Right.
I know for myself, this whole social distancing thing is about to drive me nuts.
Me too.
And if I was a single man, if it wasn't for my wife keeping me on task, I know I'd have messed it up a long time ago. But she starts it out in the home, and so she makes sure that we continue to do what we're supposed to do, even coming and going from our home.
Right.
And so it's just been great to have her there. But let's talk about about this. How have you been encouraged by the way that the agencies have been working together?
I can't tell. I don't even know encouraged is enough of a word to tell you the truth, because you don't want to talk about, well, despite everything, there's good things.
Right,
but
right.
I guess there are good things.
Yeah.
Even in times of trouble and in times when people are losing their lives, even, there has been, I think, a coming together of the serving community in Kalamazoo here in a way that I have not experienced before. And even agencies that have the same mission, they have to do their own fundraising.
That's right.
They might have their own priorities and ways of operating, and sometimes don't get along every day. And sometimes you don't even feel positive about a partner agency and decision that's made. And I can say right now that I have never felt more like we are willing to share and find those places where we agree. And guess what? It's a lot more than any portion of what we might not agree on.
Right. I totally agree with that. I think that for some reason, I don't know why it is, we always seem to gravitate to the negative. We gravitate to where the tension is, And I know I've had some conversations with some of our partner agencies that I've never talked to.
Right.
And I mean that's an indictment against myself, but just because our agencies are doing different things, and as you said, we're all vying for funding in a small community here.
Yes.
And we've got a need, and we see different. We see the problems from different perspectives, and we choose to approach it from different perspectives.
Right.
But this situation has shown us that regardless if our perspectives, if we come at it from a different perspective, all of them are valuable in this process.
Right.
And so that to me has really, really been encouraging.
Yes.
We were talking a little bit earlier about what do we do going forward, because I'm sure our community knows that we're in partnership with the City of Kalamazoo and HRI and a few others. We've got people staying in hotels over on Lake Street and then some in Battle Creek.
Right.
And so, but at some point, when we start talking about getting back together,
Right.
what is that going to look like?
Right.
What do you think some of the challenges are going to be?
I mean, I think the challenges are going to be uncertainty that we've all been experiencing every single day in our own lives. And that is, for example, I think we were on a call, was it yesterday now, and I talked to the county health officer,
Right.
who's been very involved in the sheltering system like never before.
Yeah.
And that's been a blessing. But so give us some perspective. What is your guidance going to be as we begin to perhaps expand our shelter populations again? I mean, we're not in a situation where we can afford to pay for motel rooms for hundreds of people every single night.
That's right.
And he did not really give me an answer. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything about Jim.
Oh, really?
I think he's doing a
Good.
great job, but he didn't really know. So I just felt like we have to keep talking every day, because this is coming right back towards us here.
That's right.
We're in a temporary situation.
Yeah.
And it's not like a one-time event. A hurricane went through, we're done with it, now it's getting
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. And I mean, we talk about this being an unprecedented situation. It means we've never seen this before.
No.
Last time our country went through something like this was over 100 years ago.
Right.
And I don't think it's a lot of people left that remember what we did or know or can have input at this point. And so even the experts are trying to figure out, how do we respond to this?
Right.
We don't know everything there is to know about the disease itself.
No, we don't.
And so we don't know how it's going to respond coming out of this.
Right.
And so we've got to be prudent. We've got to take our times. I just got chewed out down on the sidewalk because our store isn't open yet. And a gentleman rode by on his bike, chewing me out, telling me, well, everything's open downtown, like that. Well, it might look like it to you, but I'm responsible for this corner up here,
Right. Right.
And I got to make sure that our people are safe and the people that come here to shop, are safe. And
Right.
so from our perspective, we get input from other rescue missions, Citygate Network, and those people that do the exact same thing we do, and just see how it works in conjunction with what our local community is doing, and how's
Right.
that going to all unfold together.
Right.
And so I'm excited, and again, I'm excited, and I love the way you're pulling folks together and getting them to talk, because that piece right there is going to carry us on into the future.
I believe so much. Yeah.
And I was actually on another call about a whole nother something that has to do with the city. We'll talk about it another time. But
Okay.
I was just excited to be on that call. Two had been called and asked, for input, because I can't remember the last time we got something like that, And
I'm sorry to say that's true. And I think that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And one thing, that I remind people about, to tell you the truth, not to get into any too much negative territory, but you've had your ups and downs with community opinions about that sort of thing, and you try to change and reflect the best behavior that you can here in helping people who are sometimes in very challenged situations. But we have sometimes forgotten in this community that there has been a group of people, more or less quietly going about their business and making sure that there's places for, on any given night, several hundred people to be. And that happens to be this organization. And I think sometimes people have gone on and just thought, well, it's being taken care of, that work. And I think that's a big burden. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that our mission to help people transform their lives through being housed and having opportunity for hope and thinking about opportunity, that's work we have to all do together, and we all have responsibility to share in that.
One of the things that I think has come out of this is that now we've got partners in this community that are doing what we do every day. Mm-hmm. And they're taking care of a segment of what we call our population, in a different place. But it's giving them an up close and personal view of what some of the responses are when you're going through things with this population, and just what some of the challenges are.
Yes.
And when I think that, okay, so they've got a third of the population over there of what we normally handle all day long,
right? And
they're getting an indication. So I'm hoping there's an education in it for all of us.
I mean, that's happening at the same time, for sure. Yeah. In my day job, at Integrated Services of Kalamazoo, which is a department that receives federal money and addresses homelessness issues and does outreach, that sort of thing. So I've been involved in this business for a while. But one thing we determined to do, as this crisis was really coming upon us, was open up an additional day shelter.
Right.
And that was over here at the River Church, and thank them so much for that. They opened up their facility, were very generous with us about using that, and we staff that with Integrated Services of Kalamazoo folks. And I know that you allowed more day sheltering to happen here. Of course, we have Ministry that does that work. And I had never really done day shelter work before. So just what you're talking about is that, yes, we kind of get to walk in the same shoes here for a minute.
Yeah.
And one thing that happened, and I know you had to deal with it here, is that, as we check people in and check temperatures and all those things we were beginning to do, we had, I think, about a dozen folks who stayed at our shelter who subsequently were identified as being positive. Mm-hmm. Many of them went to the quarantine shelter over in Battle Creek, but that means I'm thinking about other guests that were there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about people that I care about who work with me every day, who are spending all day with them, and I know you've had issues being concerned about your own team members here.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I really felt like we were all pulling together.
Yeah, it took that. We had some of our team who early on, for fear or whatever their reason were, they opted to stay home.
Yeah, and you can understand that.
I certainly can. We had other team members who worked it as long as they could. Mm-hmm. I mean, until they contracted, the virus, and then they had to go and get healthy again, and then they were anxious to come back.
Yeah.
And that was encouraging as well, that they were committed, to the people that we serve, and to make sure that we had, because at some point we even had to close our kitchen.
Right.
And I had Mike Liu on last week's program, and just a wonderful job that they did coming alongside and helping as well. It's a community effort.
Yes, it is.
It is a total community effort,
Right.
And I think going forward, we're going to continue to have conversations that will help us in what we call the good times. When we're not faced with a virus, but conversations that teach us how to respect each other and how to work together ongoing, so that we're not trying to pull this thing together in the middle of a crisis.
Right.
And so I'm excited about that.
Isn't it interesting, though, how sometimes it takes a crisis for that to happen? Why is that?
I think we get too much time on our hands. And so, a couple things. Number one, we get focused on our own little piece of the pie.
Right.
And then we get so much time on our hands that I can talk about what you're doing wrong, because I'm feeling confident over here because, I'm taking care of myself.
Right.
But in the middle of crisis, I need help, and I'm willing to cross some boundaries or whatever in order to get that help that I need. But
Right.
then as soon as we relax, we go back, and
We can't let that happen.
it's. I think it's human nature because even while I'm talking,
Yeah.
I remember the children of Israel when they left Egypt. As long as everything was going good, they were happy.
Right.
But as soon as things hit the fan, they forgot, about God and all He'd done for them, and they're telling Moses, "Look, take us back. We don't even have no spices to put in the food." Like that. And so people just tend to do that. And I think as the sooner that we are aware and admit that we don't want to be a part of this up and down type of thing, and that we are all better together, then we'll be more accepting. It was encouraging to me again to see. When the funding, the PPP funding came out, and there were no restrictions for religious organizations, and I thought, man, okay, so now we can work together better because now I'm not operating from more of a deficit than I normally would, and so those types of things and solving some of those types of things so that religious nonprofits feel like they're on level ground.
Sure.
For me, some of that should be a part of the conversation going forward.
Yeah.
And so,
I agree.
yeah, I'd be excited. For that. So we're now trying to figure out, okay, how we're going to open our stores, and how we're going to start doing pickups again, because we're getting people that call us.
Right.
They're ready to start shopping. It's been a good time. Our stores have been renovated, and our teams have come from out of the stores, worked in the shelters, and so now they've got that 360 view of what the ministry is all about and everything. So it's been been really helpful that way. Did you ever think, just coming in as mayor at the beginning of the year, did you ever think that the bottom was going to fall out?
No imagining. I mean, seemed like it was great times, right? I mean, tons of people were employed and the economy seemed like it was doing well. And just think now, I just saw a report this morning, it came out of the Federal Reserve, 40% of individuals who were employed back in January, making $40,000 a year or less, are now unemployed.
Wow.
That's where the highest unemployment numbers are. And it makes me, there's a lot of things you can worry about, and you can't spend every day just worrying. You have to recognize and then, go forward with some intent and trying to be optimistic that you can address those things. But it makes me worried. Are we going to see more folks looking for assistance? Right now we have a moratorium on evictions. That's going to lift it sometime.
Right.
What's it going to mean for low-income people?
Yeah. Well, I know that we're, working together. We're talking about how do we get people into housing quicker now.
Right.
Hopefully there's going to be a lot of people, and instead of coming back to the gospel mission, they'll be able to go straight from the hotel into their own places.
Right.
But as a result of what you just talked about, people being laid off, I think there's going to be a whole different segment of people in that homeless category.
Right.
A couple things about that is, one thing is the mentality is going to be different. These are people who are used to having a job. They're used to working.
Right.
And so our challenge is going to be to keep them encouraged, try to help them get into, gainful employment as quickly as possible.
Right.
But I think that's going to be a phase that we're going to have to go through, getting back to whatever normal is going to look like on the other side of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's once again, we don't know for sure what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
But I have so much hope that we're all talking together about what that's going to look like and how we could manage through that. So
yeah, well, we appreciate your leadership. We want to be at the table, and we're looking forward to having those conversations. And if there's anything that we can do to be a positive part of moving forward, all you got to do is call.
I appreciate that.
We are
so
right
much.
there.
Yeah.
My whole team is excited. The ones that have come back to work, they were excited to get back to work, and we are excited to see what that new normal is going to look like for us. We know that there are going to be challenges. As I said, it's, a whole different population now.
Right.
What that population is going to be going to look like getting back to wholeness, but we're ready for it and we're excited for it. So my guest today is our mayor, David Anderson. He's doing a wonderful job, and we've been having a great conversation about how we're pulling through this time of quarantine and coming back to a place of wholeness. And I just want to say to the community at large that you all have been great. It's been really encouraging as I've seen people ride by and wave at my staff, wave at myself, and tell us that we're doing a great job. We appreciate that so much. We need your prayers. And I ask that you continue to pray for our mayor because, again, he comes into this position. We elected him. He's elected to do this job as mayor, and then the bottom falls out. And so, he needs help, and I'm not willing to blame him for the bottom falling out. He didn't pull the bottom out, and we all just need to put our energies toward getting back and getting at a place of wholeness for our community. So if you've got any more questions, you can call the mayor's office if you have questions.
Call the mayor's office. Simple email. It's just mayor at KalamazooCity.org.
Okay, say that again.
Mayor at KalamazooCity, one word, .org. That's it.
There you have it. And you can get your concerns right to the mayor. I hope that he gets as many emails of encouragement and people telling him that they're praying for him as he does complaints. For some reason, it just always seems to be out of balance. Mr. Mayor, I'll always, at the end of this program, I always like to pray for my guests that came on, and I'd like to pray for you today.
I appreciate that very much, Pastor Bill.
Won't you pray with us? Well, Father, we just thank and praise you, God, for our mayor, God. The Word of God tells us that God is the one that appoints people of authority and that he puts them in that place. And so we receive Mayor Anderson, God, as a gift from you. And I pray, God, that you would give us wisdom and understanding, show us how to support him, how to pray for him and his family. I pray, God, that you would always cause us to be able to give constructive input, God, because he's in the same situation that we are in. And he is the one that is really pulling us together. So, God, we thank you for him. I pray for our community, God. I pray that you cause us to always know that we need each other, know that we are a community that is all trying to pull together so that we can make it through this time together. And we rely on you, God, to give us guidance, to give us peace, and to give us strength and all of that. God, we love you for it, and we thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
This has been Pastor Michael Brown and my guest, Mayor David Anderson, today on Stories of Hope from the heart of our community. God bless you all. You have a great weekend, and we'll see you here next week.